Hello and welcome to the Joe Ligato Show. I'm your host, Dr. Joe Ligato, and today we're going to be talking about, is American society irredeemably racist against Black people? And so let's see what this has to say, this poll, these statistics. All right, so this is a post by some French-sounding person, Cremu. And it starts off, is American society irredeemably racist against Blacks? One way to test this is to check if businesses are harmed when their owners are identified as Black people. If society is racist, they should lose clientele. A new preprint used Yelp's Black-owned business label to test it. Okay, so I've seen that label whenever I was using Yelp. So let's see what this study has to show. And so I have a background in statistics. I've taught graduate statistics, graduate research methods. So I can read these studies. And so these kind of lines at the top and bottom of the, or at the top of the bar, express the confidence intervals, those brackets there. And it says percent change in variable on the y-axis, so up and down, and on the x-axis, it talks about page views, website views, calls, number of online orders, and revenue. Okay, so identifying businesses as Black-owned benefited them. So the percent change in variable is from a baseline from before they were considered Black-owned to after they were considered Black-owned. And we see that it's about a 36-ish, 37-ish% increase in terms of page views. In terms of website views, it is 55-ish percent increase. Oh, and I should mention these confidence interval brackets that I talked about earlier. Those tell you really how confident you can be in the results. And there's a specific way of saying it. Oh, I hope I can remember how to say this correctly. It is the chance that we get these results if the null is true. The confidence intervals express 95% chance that we would obtain these results if the null is true. And so these are outside of zero. They're not overlapping with zero, these confidence intervals. And so that can tell us that this is very likely the case, that there is a significant difference, a practical difference, instead of just a statistically significant difference that is randomly found in the data. And so here we see something like calls go up by about 75%, number of online orders. Really, that's what matters. Number of online orders and revenue, those are the types of things that matter. And we can see that those go up by at least 25%, probably 30-ish%. Okay, and the confidence intervals do not overlap with zero, so we can say with a decently high degree of confidence that this is not random chance, especially because we have 5 different variables that we're looking at here, and all of them have confidence intervals that do not overlap with zero. And so it seems like being labeled a Black-owned business is helpful, it's beneficial for the business. And so that would provide data that at least partially refutes the notion that America is irredeemably racist on average, because at the very least, it seems to help to be labeled as a Black-owned business. So let's see what else this has to say here. So what is this? This businesses labeled as Black-owned received, they give you these specific numbers that I was trying to guesstimate there based on the graph. 36% more page views, 52% more website views, 71% calls, 34% more orders, and 36% more revenue. Again, that's amazing in terms of the benefit of being labeled a Black-owned business. This wasn't observed when the business was Black-owned but didn't identify as such. Okay, so what we're trying to do here is, if you're a scientist, you're trying to refute your initial hypothesis. You're trying to reject the alternative hypothesis, we would say. You don't have to really know what that term said, you're trying to either support the null or reject the alternative. And this wasn't observed when the business was Black-owned but didn't identify as such. The effect was not driven by something that impacted all Black businesses regardless of label. Okay, so what they're trying to do here is they're trying to say this was not likely due to random chance. This was not likely due to just being Black-owned in general, that their revenue would go up over time, because this was a pre-post type of test, so before and after. This was the case that the label itself of being labeled as Black-owned did have a significant benefit compared to the Black businesses that were not labeled as Black-owned. Okay, so comparing early and late adopters showed an effect on both. Time-varying effects aren't on the menu. So it was not due to the amount of time that they were labeled as Black-owned. It was or when they started to be labeled black-owned either. It was entirely due to the fact that black-owned actually benefited the business. So it goes on to say, what if this is just black solidarity? So again, trying to refute the idea that, or trying to, I'm not coming up with a good way of explaining this, but it's trying to push back on the notion of it's just random chance or it's something other than racism that is causing this. So they're trying to figure out ways that racism could still be the case even with these findings. Okay? And what they find here is that typical businesses that were labeled gained reviews, but the new reviews came from white users. So whenever people who are white saw that it was a black-owned business, they were more likely to engage with that business. Okay? So that should provide really strong evidence that this is not a matter of racism. People are not being racist against black people in America on average. It is the fact that being black is actually quite beneficial, which is why we're seeing a lot of white people who are pretending to be Native American, pretending to be Hispanic, pretending to be black. It is very beneficial to not be a white person in America in modern society. Okay, so it goes on to say the interaction for reviewer race was highly significant. Okay, when they say about the interaction here, they're saying that it is, if you're white, it is more likely you're going to engage with the business if it's considered black-owned compared to other races looked at in this study. I think it says, yeah, it's just white versus black here. It does not talk about Hispanic or Asian. So it goes on to say, but what if white reviewers were just heading where black people did? That seems doubtful because the effect of the black-owned label was smaller in neighborhoods that were more black. People eat locally, so black people seemingly didn't care that a business was black-owned. Okay, so it does not seem to be the case that white people were just following the lead of black people. They were outright intentionally engaging with black-owned businesses for the express purpose of helping to support black-owned businesses. So it goes on to say this was likely a white-led effect. So it seems to be the case that the black people were not more likely or not as likely as white people to engage with black-owned businesses once they're labeled black-owned, but it was the white people who were leading the charge of engaging and supporting black-owned businesses. So again, really provides some pretty strong evidence, pretty clear evidence refuting racism, that white people are racist against black in modern America, at least from this angle. We'd love to have other data across other venues to kind of triangulate, is there other forms of racism that might be occurring? But at least in terms of black-owned businesses, there does not seem to be racism occurring. So it goes on to say, the effect was larger in areas with greater percentage of Democrats, so not surprising to me that Democrats are the ones who are mostly supporting black-owned businesses. But was there anything particular to the businesses, black businesses with better ratings before they were labeled, saw larger effects? Okay, so if you're a good business and you're black-owned, there's a multiplicative effect there where it benefits you even more if you have good ratings. Okay? That label benefits you more if you have good ratings. But customers cared less about black-owned label if the business was a franchise. Okay, so if you're a black-owned business and it's a McDonald's, you're just a part of this chain business, they don't care as much. And that makes complete sense because what white people are trying to do here is they're trying to support a black-owned business. And McDonald's, as far as I know, is not, their major shareholders are not mainly black people. Moving on, it says restaurant goers wanted to patronize black businesses where the immediate owner was black and they didn't represent some mega corporation. Okay. It just happens. Okay, so this is Cremu talking. It just happens we live in the world where identifying a business as black-owned doesn't bring racism down upon it. We live in a world where the reverse happens. In absolute terms, the effects were about 28 more page views, 3 more website views, 2 more calls, 1 more order, and $22 higher revenue. And these are lower bounds because the data set only observes traffic through the Yelp platform. Okay, so again, I am not understanding where the label racism comes from in America. I've been through a lot of different educational programs, bachelor's, master's degree, things like that, where they were very social justice warrior oriented. And I can tell you the leaders of the future are not trained to be racist, and they outright go out of their way to be anti-racist. And for some reason, though, there are no metrics we're willing to look at when it comes to defining if America is becoming less racist or not, because things like systemic racism are things that are not measurable. They're not tangible variables, quantifiable variables that we can actually look at. And so there's this game going on where the DIE, diversity, inclusion, and equity people, the DIE people, as I like to call them, they want to create jobs. They want to perpetually have jobs for themselves. And to do that, racism can never die out. And so the fact that you have data like this that shows that America is just simply not a racist country, that would put them out of jobs. And so because they need jobs, because they want to make a lot of money doing very little work aside from calling people racist, they cannot allow this data to inform people's opinion. They have to have very ephemeral data, very ephemeral labels, such as systemic racism, which is not quantifiable, to conclude that America is racist indefinitely so that they can have a job indefinitely. Thank you so much for investing your time in watching this video. If you found the content informative, be sure to show your support by giving us an upvote. Your engagement goes a long way in boosting our visibility within the algorithm. To stay ahead on the most pressing contemporary issues, don't forget to hit that subscribe button. We're committed to delivering up-to-date, thought-provoking content on a daily basis, and we want you to be a part of this journey. Also, your thoughts matter to us, so please share any comments, questions, concerns, and/or critiques in the comment section below. I personally read each one and I respond when necessary. Given the nature of our content, where we expose the actions of the oligarchs who exploit the masses, intentional suppression in the algorithm is an unfortunate reality. If you believe in our mission, you can help by spreading the word. Tell your friends about our content. Let's amplify the voices of those that challenge the status quo. Speaking of amplifying voices, I need your help. As many of you know, I gave up a lucrative career in the fastest growing field and the highest paying subfield of psychology in the United States to move to the Philippines to provide content that I think is important for my viewers to hear. I left so I could avoid repercussions for speaking about topics that are taboo in the United States. This decision came with significant financial sacrifices, but your support can help sustain the work we do. Check out the links in the description for how to support our channel. Every contribution, big or small, is genuinely appreciated. Finally, as a channel, we stand with the people of Palestine. We believe in their freedom, and by supporting us, you can contribute to this shared vision. Thank you for being a part of our community. Your viewership is invaluable, and I genuinely hope you have a fantastic rest of your day. Bye.